Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR today, September 16th, Thursday morning. It's the man they call Meathead. It's the M.O.T.S, the Matthew of the people, but he's the Matthew. You're the Matthew, the Matthew on the streets, Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew.
If I was the Matthew of the people, I'd be the M.O.T.
The M.O.T. Mop the hoople.
The M.O.T. The M.O.T.
Yeah. It sounds like you're having as much fun with it as I did. All right. Matthew, before we get going, let us know who takes care of this program. Let's get our sponsor taken care of right away.
You're talking about the fine clothing manufacturers at Collar and Elbow Brand, available exclusively at collarandelbowbrand.com. Head over there, get you some Collar and Elbow Brand gear, enter promo code LindaK, save yourself 10%, and use that to buy more Collar and Elbow.
Hey, you know what I thought of, Matthew, is that, when my thing that's coming up in a couple weeks, and we haven't really talked about this on air, but you know what I'm going to need? I wear a lot of T-shirts from Collar and Elbow and a lot of pullover stuff because I won't have any range. I might need to get some tank tops.
Ooh.
And I might have to go pick up some Collar and Elbow tank tops.
You might. You're going to really branch out. And, I mean, you've got a lot of Collar and Elbow stuff, but you're going to go into a different Collar and Elbow style.
I might have to click on a different link instead of saying, is this where you wanted to go on my phone?
Hey, it never hurts to kind of expand your horizons. Get out of your comfort zone.
Get out of my comfort zone. All right. Well, let's talk about a little bit of news. And today's theme for the news, which we've never had before and probably never have again, but today's news all kind of hangs around the same kind of topic here. There has been rumblings, tweets, cryptic messages that have all been put out on people debuting. The IIconics had a cryptic message about some big announcement. Bray Wyatt has had a cryptic message. Paige has had a cryptic message. Bray Wyatt is the one we're going to start with first. It looks like his non-compete, which, he had a 90-day non-compete. He was let go in late July, may end up being open for business on September 29th. Rochester, New York, September 29th, when AEW does run Dynamite. There has been some talk by yours truly and, yourself. Boy, I'm struggling here. Yours truly and Matthew Thomas and Linda Kay about, does Bray Wyatt show up in AEW? Does the Dark Order, with all their dysfunction, need a new leader? Who better than Bray Wyatt?
And you don't have to, I look at it from two sides of the equation. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit. It seems like it would
Have you ever heard that song by Tenacious D?
The low-hanging fruit. No, I haven't. But maybe it kind of describes what I'm about to talk about.
All right, go ahead. Tell us about your fruit and how low it hangs.
Well, it depends on what kind of fruit you're talking about. It depends on if you get grapes and they're kind of low on the vine, then they might hang kind of low. But nevertheless, so yeah, it would be the easy thing to do. But my goodness, I think it would work and be effective. And it's you're referencing Brody without necessarily having to specifically reference Brody. So yeah, is it easy? But sometimes easy is not that bad. And I think it makes a ton of sense.
Well, it can't be Husky Harris, and it can't be Bray Wyatt, but the man's name, Wyndham Rotunda. So obviously, a big wrestling family there. His first name is Wyndham, last name Rotunda. Does he come in as a new name, and is he the leader of the Dark Order? Does he bring peace and order to the Dark Order?
Well, let's talk about this. He's going to show up somewhere, and at this point, it only makes sense that it's AEW. Yeah, he could go to Impact and he could be that company's franchise star. The problem with that right now, and I hope we get to a point where, they can start traveling around and start playing some big buildings, but him making a return and showing up at another company needs a big audience. And that's the place it's going to give you.
And that's why CM Punk hadn't been seen in the last year. There was talk CM Punk would have been back a year ago, but he had to be in front of crowds.
Yeah. And,
he brought Brock Lesnar back in front of SummerSlam.
Exactly. And, the competition right now that can provide that avenue, that can provide that audience is AEW. They put 13,000 last night. in Newark, New Jersey. They're going to have their biggest house next week in New York. I mean,
20K plus.
That's the stage. That's the stage that you can really use to catapult these people.
There you go. All right. So Bray Wyatt possibly on his way back. The IIconics put something out there and said that they got a big announcement. Apparently, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce have a new single out there. Matthew, I was hoping that maybe they were going to make a debut, maybe take some pictures, but you know what? Let's hear what they got.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's something to throw us off the trail. Maybe they're going to premiere somewhere sooner rather than later, and this kind of sets their expectations to kind of disappoint us, to kind of have it go off our radar for just a wee little while, and they pop up somewhere and show us.
Speaking of show us, Paige says she's going to show us something in January. She says she is not done yet flexing her muscles. Does Paige return with WWE in a wrestling capacity?
You know, out of everybody we've mentioned, she's the only one that I think we're talking about WWE in. I mean, of course, IIconics not going that route now. Bray Wyatt's not going that route, but I think she could potentially come back to that company, and it would be a big deal.
Paige, a part of the original Women's Revolution, if you will, because I believe she was still a Divas champion when she beat AJ Lee.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, we're going to talk about in a little bit. Punk referencing her on commentary that he may be upsetting his wife April because he's inviting everybody over for Thanksgiving dinner. But when Paige beat AJ Lee the night after WrestleMania, which has been chronicled in Fighting with the Family, it was still the Divas Championship. But really, at that point, that was the beginning of the Women's Revolution.
Yeah, and I mean, that was kind of our first round of NXT call-ups, you know, when that started becoming a thing too. So Women's Revolution and the impact that
that's what we also saw, I believe it was Bayley and Charlotte.
Yeah, that they started to make on the main roster.
And that was Stephanie saying, hey, you know what? We hear you. Let them wrestle. So, all right. Speaking of wrestling, let's talk about some wrestling action from last night. AEW Dynamite. Initially, I felt that this was a lame duck Dynamite, and I'll explain why. I felt that this was a lame duck Dynamite because we have the mega show coming up next week. And was this Dynamite going to be a bunch of setup just to get to next week? So let's talk about the show. The show opens up with Adam Cole, baby, taking on the Elite Hunter, Frankie Kazarian. CM Punk on commentary for the entire night. Your thoughts on CM Punk on the microphone?
I thought he did an excellent job. And, you know, before we get to that 1-2 punch of having Punk's intro to get the crowd fired up.
Yep.
And Cole's intro to get the crowd fired up. Punk, probably with his most significant stage dive last night, he launched himself off.
He said, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And he flew.
Yeah.
He was counting on that guy to catch him.
He was, man. That was
it. A plant?
Insane.
Maybe a backstage guy? Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man. The sustained, and that's the thing that gets me with these AEW crowds. That sustained crowd reaction for the whole show, from bell to bell, and these are just some of the best, not just wrestling crowds, but just best crowds that I have seen anywhere since stuff started opening back up. A building full of people who are just excited to be happy in a building full of people. My goodness, it's outstanding. And there was a sign in the audience last night that said, you know, thank you, AEW, for making me love wrestling again. And I think that is a common sentiment that is, you know, is shared by so many people.
So CM Punk on the microphone, your thoughts all night?
Yeah, no, he did an excellent job. It made me listen to commentary even closer because, you know, you've got your solid commentary team on a weekly basis on AEW's products. But,
yeah,
oh, my goodness, you're giving me an hour and a half basically of Punk, because he would eventually not be on commentary anymore. But,
right.
Yeah, it was great, and just another added bonus to that commentary table.
The only problem I have with it is that, and you can tell that they're just not built for that, right? I don't need to see a camera shot of, you know, Punk getting to sit at the grown-ups table because they only have 3 monitors, but they have 4 people in commentary. Yeah. It's a terrible look.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it looks like. It's like, hey, come over and sit at the big kids table. Am I wrong?
It's a great privilege. Nah, it looked a little bit strange, but it wasn't.
And that happens with Mark Henry too. Mark Henry's sitting off to the side watching somebody else's monitor.
Yeah. Well, thankfully they took care of that table eventually.
Yeah. All right. Making his in-ring debut, Adam Cole taking on Frankie Kazarian, and this was definitely a match for Adam Cole, right? I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that Adam Cole was going to pull this match off. Cole and his line of "Who's ready for story time" with Adam Cole, baby. This time he says he's got a problem with Jungle Boy, Christian Cage, and Luchasaurus. Your thoughts?
It's going to be his first feud, basically. It's fine. It's going to be, here's the interesting thing with
they're
Cole,
set up for Rampage next week at the Grand Slam. It's going to be a 6-man tag.
You've done such a good job of making people boo the Elite, even though they're as renowned a wrestlers as they are. Not going to be that case with Cole. Cole is over big time, and heel or whatever he's going to do, man. That crowd was eating him up last night.
All right, so backstage we get a package of the Lucha Brothers accepting the challenge against Butcher and the Blade. So happy to see Butcher and the Blade back. But I want to talk about Shivani talking with Fuego del Sol and Sammy Guevara. They're sitting on top of what looks to be his Ford Escort, and apparently he just picked it up. I don't know if he paid a couple grand for it or whatever, but apparently he's putting it up in a match against Miro. So this 1989 Ford Escort may be on the line.
That's wonderful. I want to see
better than
Miro
a 73 Chevy Vega.
Yeah. I want to see Miro win and then have the
Drive
Escort, man. Yeah. That really kind of sweets the pot.
MJF out in the ring with Wardlow, and there's more Brian Pillman here. Brian Pillman wearing a obviously Bengal tiger on his shirt because he's from Cincinnati, not Shit-Cincinnati, but Cincinnati. So we go even farther with MJF and Pillman.
And we broke Brian Pillman Jr. away from the Varsity Blondes. This was monumental in the fact that we're getting singles competitor Brian Pillman Jr. And he looked, much more like a standalone wrestler than he traditionally
OVW's
has.
own Brian Pillman.
Coming, yeah. I like the direction that we're going there, and that company has them a big time baby face in Brian Pillman Jr.
Hey, I've got a question for you. How loud did you gasp or guffaw when you heard Christian go, look, you're already used to losing the Wednesday Night Wars. Why don't we add Friday to that as well? And then he mentioned that, look, you had to have your buddies pull you out of developmental.
I thought it was great, man.
That was fantastic.
There's not really a line for AEW to cross right now. I mean, they're throwing it all out there. Did they set a record last night for the times that shit has been uttered on a professional wrestling show?
Well, I mean, they still have
network television.
Break South Park's record when they had that episode. I think they said the S word like 273 times or something like that.
They got a little ways to go.
Yeah, and then they brought down the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. All right,
there's some 4 horsemen, some wrestling 4 horsemen in AEW now. So
yeah,
I mean they've got that.
And there's
working
the 4 horsemen of Metallica. So I mean we got all that
there. There you go.
Dante Martin and Matt Sydal. I don't know if Mike Sydal's injured, but they had a tag team match against FTR, Wheeler and Dax Harwood with Tully Blanchard. Pretty standard match for Wheeler and Harwood. They're great. I really enjoy watching them go. And, Jim Ross isn't wrong when he says they remind him so much of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the Enforcers. That's what they looked like in WWF back in the day, and that's what they look like now in AEW.
Now, without a doubt, and one thing they have been missing as of late is a significant, program. We've had them go around with Ortiz and company there, but We really haven't had that big program, but I think we got a little bit of that a little bit later tonight or last night.
Malachi Black came out. I thought it was unannounced, but that's okay. It was for a match. He was dressed. And he says, members of the House of Black, please rise, for we have an enemy in our midst. Dude, he went after Rosario Dawson. What the hell? The problem I had with this, though, is, I'm a big fan of not having him touch until the match.
Mm-hmm.
We had the big match next week, but this wasn't so bad because Cody was in the building. See, I thought we were waiting for Cody to come back next week, and he ended up being in a private box, and it just started running down from his private box.
Yeah. I think you got away with that a little bit because in a lot of ways, it wasn't the in-ring confrontation. I think it's a little bit different when they're not touching in ring, when they're touching outside of the ring, when they're ascending the stairs. So this worked for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, Cody came down and saved Rosario for, her friend on what is the big show on TBS, that quiz show or a challenge show or whatever it's called.
The Go Big show, I believe.
The Go Big show. There you go. All right. Top team Dan Lambert with Junior Dos Santos, the Pitbull Andre Arlovsky, Paige Van Zandt, and Kayla Harrison, and then the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and All Ego Ethan Page, challenge AEW to respond to their challenge. I did not expect Chris Jericho to be the answer to the challenge either, but when Judas played and then they turned the music off and the crowd finished Judas, bravo.
Mm-hmm. No, it worked.
When they're not cued to do something and they make it better, the audience is amazing.
No, without a doubt. And I liked seeing Jericho and Lambert go back and forth.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Lambert on the microphone because he sounds like a younger, whinier Zeb Coulter. I ask you, am I wrong?
No, I can see that. But my goodness, the dude's intensity is just top notch. Yeah. Give me more Dan Lambert, man. All day.
Jade Cargill with legit Layla Hirsch, and then Jade Cargill. Layla Hirsch, wait. Layla Hirsch should have had this, but obviously Jade Cargill remaining undefeated. I mean, I thought this was a good match.
Yeah, it was the longest that we've seen Cargill go. I mean, she's got a great look. She's still relatively new in the ring from what I understand. So there's been some protection going on, and her matches generally have not lasted that long as I think we've seen her go on any AEW program. So,
She was on the debut episode of Rampage, right? She had a match that night.
This could have gone either way, but yeah, they decided to go with Jade. They continue to build her, and I think this was her biggest challenge yet.
Okay. The aforementioned removal of Punk from the commentary section. Hook got a Dragon Sleeper to Punk, and then Hobbs smashed into Punk again, and then Hobbs picked up Punk and slammed him on the broadcast table.
You got to give it to AEW. That's not a spot they've overused. I think we've had it happen once or twice before last night.
I can't remember the other one.
Was it something involving Darby?
Because remember, the commentary table's away from the ring, so it's not as prominent.
Something with Darby happened up around there. I don't know if they
might have been top team. That might have been Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky.
Very possible. But if it's happened, it has not happened much, and it's still one of those. It's not become the cliche of the Spanish announce table.
Yep. Now, speaking of Darby Allin, he had a match against the chairman, Sean Spears. Darby had Sting. Chairman Sean Spears had Tully Blanchard. And after the match, Pinnacle members FTR jumped in the ring. They began brawling. Tully hit Sting from behind with a chair, and then Sting turned around just to go after him. FTR impaled Sting with the spiked pile driver, and then Blanchard grabbed the towel and rubbed off Sting's face paint. It's like tearing off a luchador's mask.
My goodness, I liked it. It's not something I've seen a ton of. And I think we got a very interesting little feud right there. Give me FTR, Sting, and Darby. That's something that I had not thought about, that I did not realize until last night that I want.
Okay. And is that Sting and Tully Blanchard match something that you want?
You know what? Yes, it is.
Holy smokes. All right.
All of the above, man.
Tony Schiavone was in the ring to interview the American Dragon Bryan Danielson about Kenny Omega. Here comes Don Callis and Kenny Omega. And he says, right now, here's a great line. Right now, it's not about that belt. It will be eventually. But right now, it's about you. Your thoughts on the whole promo?
I much preferred him saying that than what Goldberg said when he was accosted after working out that he didn't care about Lashley's title, that he was after his soul. I think this was a major step in the right direction, if we're going for that sentiment of just give me the person, not the belt. No, and that's a great job. If AEW does put these two guys together non-title, it's
confirmed next week. AEW World Champion Kenny Omega against American Dragon Bryan Danielson on the Arthur Ashe show on Dynamite.
Oh my goodness! So it's been confirmed. My goodness, I did not realize that. That's outstanding. And
that's the main event. That's a pay-per-view match right there.
You get around the narrative of you just walk in and make your title shot. Very smart booking on AEW's end, and you're not calling it a contenders match.
Nope. Because Bryan Danielson right now said that, look, it's not about that today. It will be, but not today. Here's the main event. It was Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley taking on 2.0, Matt Lee and Jeff Parker with Daniel Garcia. Attacked from behind as they made their entrance. But obviously, Mox pinned Parker. Here comes Suzuki. And we didn't talk about it, but Lance Archer was with Suzuki. Is there a match coming up with Archer and Suzuki against Moxley and Kingston?
I would think so. I think it's
like I said at the beginning here. I thought this was a lame duck Dynamite, right? Still entertained me enough. We had things we never thought we would see, like somebody actually attacking Punk. Because right now, Punk's been untouchable. I mean, he's been pretty much untouchable, right? Where even if he gets attacked, he gets back up again. He got attacked last night. You've got, Sting getting his face wiped by Tully Blanchard. Tully how long has Tully been out of the business until he came to AEW? He was out of business 20 years, right?
Yeah, 20, if not 25 or
How old is Tully? I mean, he's got to be in his 60s.
Yeah.
And Tully looks relevant.
He does look relevant, and my goodness, it dawned on me like last week or week before last, just how good this guy's mic chops are. I mean, he is phenomenal on the mic.
Well, I mean, think about the wrestling fan base right now. Until AEW, most of them had no clue who Tully Blanchard was.
Yeah.
If they barely knew the Four Horsemen, they knew of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
They didn't know who Tully Blanchard was.
Yeah. They're doing a great job, and it proved to be anything but a lame duck show. You've got a feud with FTR, Darby, and Sting in the works. My goodness, you've got Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega announced for last week. If that was all the business you got done on this show, that's a show enough right there.
It's a lot of show.
Yes.
Well, that is our show as well. Hopefully we got business done today. For Matthew Thomas, the man they call Meathead, we will talk to you again tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.